All right. Butch, with S1A1 and T2A2, both enables are degraded, so you might as well leave it enable 1. And like we talked about last night, if you have to drop the backup, you'll just have to find the right switch to get accomplish what you need to accomplish.
That's what I figured. Thanks. Got it.
You're watching live coverage of NASA's Boeing crew flight test to the International Space Station with NASA astronauts Butch Wilmore and Suni Williams aboard the Starliner spacecraft. We were tracking an initial docking time of 11:15 a.m. Central Time. We will not dock during this during this current docking window. The next docking opportunity opens at 12:33 p.m. Central Time. That window closes at 1:19 p.m. Central Time. The crew is currently backing away from the 200-meter radius known as the Keep-Out Sphere at the International Space Station. They will hold at about 250 meters away. About 45 minutes ago, the teams noticed there were some reaction control system thrusters. These are on the service module of the spacecraft. 4 specifically were beginning to fail off, meaning they would need to be reactivated. The crew took manual control of the spacecraft at the 260-meter hold point and conducted some manual piloting while those 4 reaction control system thrusters were fired. With the current configuration, the teams have not currently given the go for the astronauts and the spacecraft to move inside the Keep-Out Sphere. That Keep-Out Sphere is a 200-meter invisible radius around the International Space Station, and the spacecraft must be considered 4-orbit safe, meaning it would not move into that radius within 4 orbits if it were to lose control of its thrusters. We are operating out of 2 flight control rooms here at Johnson Space Center. On the left, you see Capcom, or capsule communicator, Neil Nagata. He's the voice you've been hearing speaking with Butch and Suni aboard Starliner. We're in the white flight control room. This is the Starliner flight control room. And on the right side of your screen is the International Space Station flight control room just across the hall, where teams are leading the space station and all of its systems.
Starliner and Station Houston on the big loop. Right now, Starliner has enough capability. We have fault tolerance of 6-off control to press in. However, we'd like to do that press in about 17 and a half minutes from now. Given that, we're going to go ahead and perform another hot fire to see if we can recover the T2A2 and S1A1 jets in the intervening time. So for Starliner, once we get into insulation here and get our optical cameras back for Vesta, we're going to get back into the SM hot fire test procedure.
Starliner copies. Sunny's pulling it up. Station copies.
That call from Capcom, Neil Nagata to Butch and Suni and Starliner. They have analyzed the data from the RCS thrusters they've gotten back, the ones that have been enabled. They do have 6-off control of Starliner, which means they are currently go for a docking. They're currently planning on moving in for the next docking attempt.
Again, that next docking window opens at 12:33 p.m. Central Time. In the meantime, they are going to conduct a couple more hot fire tests to continue attempting to recover 2 of those RCS, or reaction control system thrusters.
We are reaching the end of the nighttime period for ISS and Starliner. We should expect some views of both Starliner and ISS from each other's cameras shortly. There is a possibility to hot fire some of the jets again during this time period. We will wait for a call from the Capcom.
Starliner for the hot fire. The plan here is we're going to hot fire 3 jets, B1A3, T2A2, S1A1. Part of the reason we have to go back and take a look at B1A3 is because we had an attitude correction. We told you to do it, and it kind of muddied the rates for B1A3. So to get confidence back in it, what we're going to do here is we're going to have you go, we'll have you go to point hold and manual, right? And then we're going to sweeten up the station keeping. We're going to go to free drift, and then we're going to go ahead. I'll let you know when we start firing those jets. You'll be hands off until I tell you you're hands on. How copy?
We go hands off the 10-minute hands on after we go free drift. We're ready.
Okay, and also to make things a little simpler, we're going to stay in LVLH for this one. So stand by for my next call to get us configured.
Standing by. Yeah, we like LVLH. We were curious while we were in Nurseville to begin with. Thank you.
Starliner will take a point hold transpulse when you get there. Stand by. Ray will give us some words to sweeten up the station keeping.
Okay, we are point hold transpulse.
This view coming from the International.
Two ups. All right, Starliner, we'll take point free, hands off.
Free, hands off.
Again, this view live from the International Space Station, and you can see Starliner still at that approximate 220 to 250 meter point. The space station and Starliner are entering into an orbital daytime, currently flying 259 statute miles over French Polynesia. Of course, we've been keeping you updated with all of the Starliner updates here in the White Flight Control Room, but my teammate Gary Jordan across the hall has been keeping tabs on everything space station. We'll go to Gary.
Heard a jet fire on board.
Roger.
And this is Mission Control Houston. Of course, we're following along every step of the way with the teams over in the next flight control room following Starliner operations. Some of the views you were seeing were of the flight director, Vincent LaCourte, speaking with Ed Van Cise, flight director over in the Starliner flight control room, coordinating on entering that keep out sphere. We've been showing you periodic views of some of the telemetry that shows that sphere. Now, of course, once we cross that boundary, we're, of course, now in integrated operations, but that boundary needs to be carefully coordinated before pressing in and make sure it has the right fault tolerance. Outside the keep out sphere now, Butch and Suni remaining in a hold position. That go to proceed inwards has been given by the teams confident enough in the configuration of Starliner with the necessary redundancies to back away if needed once inside the keep out sphere. Lots of coordination happening on both sides before giving that call. But from the International Space Station flight control team, there is enough confidence in the configuration to go ahead and press in. And we're following along with these views from the International Space Station. Getting great views, the sun reflecting.
Starliner, we'll take point, hold, and then point back at the target, please.
Take hold, and we will point back at the target.
Good read back.
point hold of the Sarge being one of the features of the International Space Station. The VESTA system, which we've been talking about on Starliner, tracks some of the features of the International Space Station, just making sure the pointing is right, and we do have some time to figure it out. Again, there's another about 8-minute window before the crew is given the go to press inside the keep-out sphere. Now, there are several milestones once we press inside the keep-out sphere to enable a docking, the window of which starts at 12:33 p.m. Central Time this afternoon. But once inside the keep-out sphere, the crew is scheduled to have a 10-meter hold point. We're not pressing in straight from the current position, just outside, just about 200, a little inside 220 meters right now from the station's forward port.
If that's okay with you, and otherwise it's good.
Good with the attitude. Point free, hands off.
Attitude point free, hands are off.
S1A1 fired.
Jet fire.
Roger.
Capcom Neil Magada in the Starliner flight control room. The voice you're hearing inside Starliner is Suni Williams, confirming that when the ground teams enable the thruster firing for that hot fire test, which had been reported to the crew.
We got a pretty good yaw rate. Let me fix this.
Negative. We're firing B1A3. Stand by.
These numbers you're hearing are the specific thrusters.
And we heard it.
Roger that. We're looking.
You heard confirmation of feeling some of those thrusters, S1A1, B1A3. These are the specific thrusters that are targeted for these hot fire tests before proceeding into the keep-out sphere. Again, the teams are comfortable with the current configuration with some of the reaction control thrusters. In the current configuration off, however, some of these thrusters that are being fired now are part of the hot fire test to try to recover some of those. Even though there is redundancy, recovering those would just add enough redundancy or additional redundancy outside of the already go configuration. The crew reporting that they are feeling those thrusters as they are hot fired.
Okay, we'll take point hold to get us back on target track. Point hold and take us back and point us back to the target.
Okay, we'd like to do translation.
Stand by. Starliner, your go to translate back to the hold box manually.
From the view of the space station, you're looking at Starliner a little more than 220 meters away. The crew has been given a go to switch back to manual mode and push in just a little bit to the hold box before pressing in. Team's continuing to analyze the hot fire test. And we're tracking and following along with the teams before going ahead to press in. From this view in the orbital daytime, you can see some of the RCS jets firing. as crew takes manual control.
Say again, Tony.
Back in the box.
And can you guys get us in 200 to 210 meters, please?
200 to 210.
Starliner crew confirming. From the ground, they just need to push in just a little more from where they are. An extra 10 meters or so should get them inside the box, the planned hold box. Again, and they'll continue to hold there. Right now, the crew on manual flight and continue to hold there until given the go to press inside the keep-out sphere. We're just a few minutes away from the scheduled time that the crew is scheduled to depart inside the keep-out sphere. We'll follow along with the teams as they give that go. This is Mission Control Houston. You're getting live views from the station of the Starliner, Butch, Wilmore, and Suni Williams inside, manually piloting the Starliner in a station-keeping hold position. Right now, just about 212 meters from the station. Station and Starliner are flying approximately 257 statute miles over the Pacific Ocean, approaching the west coast of Mexico, about to fly over the Midwest of the United States on a northeastern trajectory. In an orbital daytime, you're getting great views from the outside of the station. Teams continuing to analyze the Starliner before going ahead and pressing in to the keep-out sphere. The earliest window to do so is crossing right about now, but we'll wait for that go from both teams concurring to press in and go through those next steps to the 10-meter hold point. We'll get that view of Starliner a lot closer than what we're seeing now. We're attempting right now the second docking window, continuing to look at the Starliner and its systems, the reaction control thrusters that are needed to enable a go to proceed inside the keep-out sphere and ensure safe docking to the International Space Station. The window for that second attempt opens at 12:33 p.m. Central Time. That's, of course,
Starliner Houston T in the box. We'll take auto.
Auto.
The crew manually flying again and station keeping within the hold window inside, right now inside 210 meters. Given the go to switch to auto hold mode, giving Butch and Suni a break from stick time, holding in that position before proceeding inwards towards the keep-out sphere. Again, we were talking about the windows. 12:33 is the beginning of that window. 1:19 p.m. Central Time is the back end of that window. flight controllers here in the International Space Station Flight Control Room, continuing to evaluate steps needed to ensure a go to proceed inside the keep-out sphere, and go ahead and press in for that attempting for docking within the second window. We're following along very closely and coordinating.
Houston. So based on the hot fire tests, T2A2 and S1A1 had satisfactory results. We didn't get a result out of B1A3. So we're going to re-enable T2A2, S1A1, and inhibit B1A3.
We copy all. You're going to inhibit B1A3. The other two, we see one of them back online, and it felt like the rest of them to us. I'm not sure what your data shows, but okay, copy all.
Okay. Just read that back. You felt all three.
Yes, we felt all three.
Roger. And by getting back T2A2, backup enable 1 became full again. And I don't think you switched out of that, but we're still go backup enable 1.
After that, enable 1 on, enable 2 is off. SMRCS.
Roger that.
So again, holding outside the keep-out sphere, Butch Wilmore, Suni Williams inside the Starliner spacecraft, working hand-in-hand with the ground controllers here, or the flight controllers here in Mission Control Houston, specifically the Starliner flight controller room in the room next door to the International Space Station flight control room. The teams worked together to hot fire some of the reaction control thrusters that went down. Looks like some of the reaction control thrusters, 2 specifically, performed well, so those will be re-enabled. 1 did not perform so well, so they're going to go ahead and inhibit that particular thruster. That one's B1A3. Currently analyzing the configuration before pressing in. The flight control team here in Mission Control Houston, the International Space Station flight control team, working hand in hand to make sure that we are jointly operating within the flight constraints needed to press inside the keep-out sphere. Flight Director Vincent LaCourte here in the International Space Station flight control room, working hand in hand with Ed Van Cise, the flight director in Starliner Mission Control. We're continuing to follow along here in the International Space Station flight control room. Let's go ahead and head over to the white flight control room with the Starliner teams following along.
Starliner,
Leah and Jim.
Go to recover. It's an Orb-Traj tab stop 8 for recover.
Stop 8, recover. Here we go.
Thanks, Gary, and welcome back to the White Flight Control Room here at Johnson Space Center. Yes, we are monitoring Starliner here in this room, all teams continuing to analyze the data from the recent tests. And as you can see, Starliner in this live view from the International Space Station, it is essentially parked at about 200 meters away from the station. Again, we are waiting to move into the keep-out sphere, that 200-meter radius around the space station. We are targeting the next docking window that opens at 12:33 p.m. Central Time. Now we are in another tracking and data relay satellite system handover. We expect to regain those visuals shortly. Meanwhile, here's another good look at the teams in Mission Control Houston, both Starliner and International Space Station. As Gary just shared, over there on the left, in the middle of your screen, that is Neil Nagata. That's the Capcom you've been hearing speak with the crew. Down toward the bottom in the white shirt is NASA astronaut Mike Fink. You may have seen him on the launch broadcast yesterday. He is also a crew member for the Starliner 1 mission. Up at the top of your screen, that's Flight Director Ed Van Cise.
And Starliner progressing slowly through the approach corridor now. We've just reached 187 meters. 190 meters is the first distance, and Starliner's flight plan for docking. First milestone inside of the keep-out sphere. currently moving towards station at about 23 centimeters per second. We're going to continue our slow approach until the 10-meter point, at which we have a planned hold where we will enable the NASA docking system, NDS, and then prepare for a final docking several minutes afterwards.
Starliner is directly lined up with the Node 2 forward port. That is where it will be docking today. Also docked to the Node 2 port are the SpaceX Dragon spacecraft. That's on the Zenith side. So once Starliner arrives, we will have 2 American crewed spacecraft at the International Space Station.
Station Houston on the big loop. Starliner is inside the keep out sphere. Begin monitoring per 1.106, step 1.1.
1.1, 1.106, station.
And with Starliner inside the keep out sphere, this is the second of those 2 invisible boundaries that we use to govern arriving and departing spacecraft. The first is the approach ellipsoid. That's when our joint operations begin between the space station and the Starliner teams. Now, the keep out sphere, we had to wait outside of this location for a go. You have to have at least 4 orbits safe before you can move into the keep out sphere. That means if you were to lose control of your thrusters, you would not move inside that boundary for 4 orbits.
Just to make sure we're on the same page, we're inside the keep out sphere, and we are in procedure 6.102, step 28 with you.
And Starliner is with you. Height fill 2's up to 45 hits.
And Barry, that is as expected. Those will reject up until 10 meters.
As Starliner continues its approach, both it and the International Space Station are flying approximately 261 statute miles over Kansas, crossing into Nebraska. Another satellite handover as Starliner continues its approach to the International Space Station. Again, we track these handovers on the tracking data and relay satellite system, and we have regained that visual communication of Starliner on its approach. Again, we are inside the keep out sphere. Starliner has been given the go to proceed, and we are targeting the earliest docking time for 12:33 p.m. Central Time.
And Starliner looking good on our current rates in. We're expecting about a 6-minute lighting hold when we get to 10 meters.
Minute lighting hold, copy.
Capcom, Neil Nagata, providing some status updates to Butch and Suni up in Starliner. They're still progressing slowly towards the 10-meter hold point. Currently right at around 109 meters away from the Node 24 docking port, progressing at about 21 centimeters per second. Once Starliner reaches the 10-meter holding point, it will hold for about 6 minutes to wait for nominal lighting. Part of the reason for that hold and the nominal lighting is to get enough sunlight in the right direction to help Starliner's Vesta cameras view all of the features of ISS for part of the image recognition part of the Vesta system, as well as it also helps the ISS crew continue to monitor Starliner from their side.
And just a reminder of the NASA astronauts aboard Starliner today. Commander Butch Wilmore, it is his third flight to the International Space Station after having been selected as an astronaut in 2000. He flew first to the International Space Station as a pilot on Space Shuttle Atlantis in 2009 and served as a flight engineer for Expedition 41 in 2014. NASA astronaut Suni Williams is the pilot for the CFT mission, or crew flight test. She was selected to be a NASA astronaut in 1998. This is also her third flight to the International Space Station, the first one coming as a flight engineer for Expedition 14, and in 2012, a member of Expedition 32. Starliner is now approximately 90 meters away from the International Space Station.
And at the 100-meter point of Starliner's approach towards ISS, it has slowed down to 0.1 meters per second, or 10 centimeters per second. It will continue at that lower rate until it reaches the 10-meter holding point.
And to recap, we are again targeting a docking no earlier than 12:33 p.m. Central Time. This comes after some troubleshooting of some reaction control system thrusters. Those are also known as RCS thrusters on the service module portion of the Starliner spacecraft. We had 5 at different points, had 5 of those thrusters go offline, and through several hot fire tests, we were able to bring back 4 of those thrusters and obtain the go and the redundancy that we needed to enter the keep-out sphere and approach the International Space Station for docking.
Passing through the 80-meter mark on Starliner's approach to the Node 24 docking port, we'll expect another decrease in velocity right around the 50-meter mark. We'll cut it in half down from 0.1 meters per second to 0.05. Then further, when we get to the 30-meter mark, we will turn on Starliner's forward docking lights.
Starliner now approximately 63 meters away from the International Space Station. Again, we are docking to the Node 2 forward port today. We are now 33 minutes away from the opening of the next docking window. However, we may hold at the 10-meter hold point for lighting to balance out and give us a better view of the international docking adapter that Starliner is targeting. Starliner continues to use the VESTA system as it approaches the International Space Station. That stands for Vision-Based Electro-Optical Sensor Tracking Assembly. There are two VESTAs on Starliner so that we have fault tolerance. These include vision-based cameras, a long-wave infrared camera, as well as LiDAR.
Starliner just passing the 50-meter mark. It has now slowed its approach rate to 5 centimeters per second, 0.05 meters per second.
Starliner continues to approach the International Space Station. Both are traveling at approximately 17,000 miles per hour, but in these proximity operations, we have to move very slowly and precisely to line up properly with the node to forward port. We are now about 44 meters away from that docking adapter. The next hold point comes at the 10-meter hold point. And again, we anticipate that we may hold here for some time while we wait for the lighting to balance out for Starliner.
And coming up on 40 meters away from station, still progressing at about that 0.05 meter per second approach rate. Starliner currently experiencing a period of relative darkness where the visual spectrum cameras aren't getting as much information from its picture, but the LiDAR and infrared cameras are taking over for most of the data capture.
Again, this is NASA's Boeing crew flight test to the International Space Station, the first flight of astronauts aboard Starliner. Today, they are carrying NASA's Butch, Wilmore, and Suni Williams, both making their third trip to the International Space Station after lifting off at 9:52 a.m. Central Time yesterday from Space Launch Complex 41 in Florida. And we are coming up on 30 meters from the International Space Station, getting a beautiful view now of Starliner as it continues its approach. We are in an automated piloting mode at this time, so the crew is not having to command the spacecraft. Starliner is designed to automatically rendezvous and dock with the space station, but we have seen the crew take manual control of the spacecraft a couple of times during this flight test. One of those happened yesterday afternoon while we were in what is called far field operations. They essentially got to test maneuvering the spacecraft in case they ever did need to take manual control. And because that test went well, they did the same thing as we were at about the 260-meter hold point earlier today.
just passed through the 30-meter mark, and you see the Starliner's forward docking lights turn on. Station is getting a good view of Starliner with the lighting coming from that direction. We're waiting for the Earth to spin a little bit more, sun to move relatively, so Starliner gets a good set of lighting on station, and we'll continue the approach towards the No. 24 docking port. Starliner nearing the 20-meter point, currently at about 22 meters away, still progressing at 0.05 meters per second. From Starliner's view, front of station is still fairly dark, using mostly the LiDAR sensor for feature tracking on the front of the docking, No. 24 docking port. Currently, you can see Starliner's NASA docking system, NDS. The docking cover has been open for a long period of flight. Currently, the docking ring on the soft capture system is retracted. It's the inner metal ring on the front of NDS with the 3 pedals sticking out from it. Once we hit the 10-meter docking hold point, Starliner will extend the soft capture system, which is a series of motor-controlled arms. Once we start moving forward after the 10-meter hold point, those arms will remain extended. Starliner will approach the international docking adapter. Upon contact, there are several spring-loaded latches that will attach Starliner to station. Then, several minutes later, the arms on that soft capture system will retract. From there, there are several hooks that will securely latch Starliner onto that docking port, and then from there we will have hard capture. Right now, we're currently coming up on 16 meters away.
And again, we anticipate holding at that 10-meter hold point. This is a built-in hold, and we may wait here until we get ideal lighting. The International Space Station and Starliner are flying over Algeria and about to cross into an orbital nighttime. Again, we see about 16 sunrises and sunsets each day when traveling at orbital velocity. That's 17,500 miles per hour. In terms of relative velocity right now, Starliner is traveling at about 0.05 meters per second. And to translate that, that's about 1/10 of a mile an hour as it moves in toward the International Space Station.
Meter hold confirmed.
Houston copies, and Starliner, we're expecting 6-minute lighting hold before NDS configures for docking.
Okay.
Station Houston on the big loop. Starliner's at the 10-meter hold point. ISS crew perform 1.106, step 1.2.
Station copies on the big loop, executing 1.2 of 1.106. ISS crew ready for final approach.
Houston copies.
Starliner Houston, got your fill-ins for your step 31. The maneuver to target align will be at 17:27:40. Expect final approach at 17:30. We're going to have 47 minutes of margin.
Okay, 17:27:40, and final approach 17:30. We don't know if you said 40 or 00.
It was going to be, the time for final approach 17:30:00 with 47 minutes of margin, 47.
Okay, 00 with 47 minutes of margin, copy.
Starliner holding steady in the 10-meter hold point. Currently about 3 minutes and 50 seconds away until for the first phase of the 10-meter hold. We're waiting for better lighting for Starliner's cameras. In the second phase of the 10-meter hold, the NASA docking system will continue to finish its initialization.
Starliner appears suspended in space as it and the International Space Station continue traveling at over 17,000 miles per hour. And again, we are anticipating an orbital nighttime here shortly. We are at the 10-meter hold point. This is a built-in hold for all arrivals. And we will continue holding here until we get the lighting that the teams are looking for to continue to press in towards that node 2 forward port.
With this close-up view, you can actually get a pretty good view of what the Vesta cameras look like and where they are. Those are the two black rectangular shapes in the upper right and bottom left of that front docking port area. There's also an additional camera offset to the left, just above the orange data connection. Those cameras are spread out in different locations to help better track different features on the front of the international docking adapter.
And we are again in a satellite handover with the International Space Station. Station uses the tracking and data relay satellite systems, and we expect to regain visual communication shortly. However, we will still be at that 10-meter hold point. Again, the docking window opens at 12:33 p.m. Central Time. And we are in an automated piloting for the Starliner spacecraft, so Butch and Suni are able to continue monitoring its approach once we resume that, but they will not be needed to take manual control and fly in and dock the spacecraft. That capability does exist, and we tested some of that manual piloting earlier in the flight.
So we just hit 10-meter hold 2. We're putting step 32 in work, if you're ready.
We are ready.
Again, Houston.
We are ready.
Okay, here goes, step 32.
Here we go. Roger.
All right, NDS latch NEA switch is in enable.
Roger. Starliner reactivating Mustang.
Okay.
Continuing to hold at the 10-meter point while the NASA docking system extends the docking ring, or the soft capture ring, I should say. Now less than 10 minutes away from the opening of the next docking window, again that coming at 12:33 p.m. Central Time.
Starliner, Houston on a big loop. NDS and entry cover are configured for docking.
Starliner copies. We're ready.
Capcom Neil Nagata and Commander Butch Wilmore both confirming that they see NDS ready for docking. We're currently sitting about 1 minute 55 seconds away from the final approach ignition. During the last 10 meters, you'll see Starliner approach at a very slow rate, similar to the last 50 meters that we saw coming in the approach corridor.
The view on the right of your screen in the larger box, that's from Starliner's Vesta cameras. This helps Starliner align with the International Space Station. Again, we are docking to the Node 2 forward port today. Window opens at 12:33 p.m. Central Time.
And we're looking about 30 seconds away from the final approach.
Starliner Houston on the big loop. You are go to command final approach with tap stop 4 OFM, trigger next.
Here comes the Sunny's putting in the trigger next. Tap stop 4.
Station Houston on the big loop. For the ISS crew, perform 1.106 steps 1.3 and 1.4.
Station copies, executing 1.3, 1.4, 1.106.
And the Starliner crew have gotten the authority to proceed for the final approach. Starliner is currently at just over 9 meters away, approaching at about 0.05 meters per second, or 5 centimeters per second, towards the known 2 forward docking port.
Again, NASA astronauts Butch Wilmore, the commander, and Suni Williams, the pilot, on the crew flight test today. This is an autonomous docking, meaning they are monitoring from inside Starliner, but the spacecraft is currently flying itself. Starliner now less than 7 meters away from the International Space Station. All good calls on the ground.
Estimated time of contact is 2 minutes.
Now approximately 5 meters.
And Starliner passing through 4 meters.
Now less than 3 meters away from the International Space Station. Good performance calls coming from teams in mission control.
Starliner at 1.5 meters away, currently about 25 seconds from docking. .5 meters.
Contact capture.
We see the same.
At 12:34 p.m. Central Time, above the southern Indian Ocean, we have confirmation of contact and capture of NASA's Boeing Crew Flight Test and Starliner aboard the International Space Station. Butch and Suni have made their arrival.
Starliner's soft capture system has finished attenuating any motion after initial capture. Next step for the NASA docking system is to retract its extension arms. It'll allow the hooks on the hard capture system to attach to the docking port on the Node 2 forward international docking adapter.
And with the arrival of Starliner, again, that coming at 12:34 p.m. Central Time, we have 2 American crewed spacecraft aboard the International Space Station. And with contact and capture of the Starliner spacecraft, we are now securing the spacecraft to that Node 2 forward port. First step in that is ring retraction of the NASA docking system soft capture ring. Once that's complete, there are 12 hooks that will need to drive and more firmly secure the spacecraft. Those will happen in 2 sets of 6. This takes anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes after the spacecraft arriving to the International Space Station.